Now, do you think structural racism is a problem that needs to be addressed, or is this more of an isolated incident?
Well, you know, it's funny because when you talk about structural racism, say at Mizzou, a lot of these problems that they dictate have to do with, retention of minority students and small numbers of minority faculty. My understanding is that both black students and black administrators are underrepresented at Mizzou relative to the state's population, but that's not necessarily something that's out of the ordinary at most colleges in the United States. And keep in mind, a lot of these protests were really spawned and spurned on not necessarily by those figures, but you had several inciting incidents. For example, the student body president claimed on social media that he had racial epithets yelled at him from a pickup truck. Then later on, you had some students who claimed that somebody had been drunk and yelling racial epithets at them. You had a swastika drawn out of somebody's feces found in one of the bathrooms in a dorm on campus. So it's sort of all these little events that have been building up until now where we have seen this massive outburst of protest.
Now, were those isolated incidents, though? Because there's a difference between institutional racism, which denies someone their opportunity based off of their race, and individuals who are hateful or bigoted and display racism as individuals. Were the students right to protest here, or was it individually based racism?
Well, look, we're not actually at Mizzou, neither you nor I attend Mizzou, but everything we've heard so far is individual incidents that have kind of led up to this outburst. Like I said, most students don't seem to have been protesting particularly about those figures until after the protest got started. You saw the sort of anger in this movement sort of coalesce around President Wolf. Specifically, they said that he was not doing enough to address structural racism at his university. So even though he had not done anything himself racially insensitive, aside from at one point giving what they considered an insufficient or incorrect definition of systemic racism, he was caught on camera where he said, "I'm going to give you a definition. I know it's going to be wrong." And he said that systemic racism is when you believe that you do not have the same opportunities as everybody else. And the protesters took offense at the phrase, "you believe," being they read that to mean that he thought that they were incorrect about structural racism. So once he made those statements, it was the cast was sort of set there. There was going to be something that was going to try to remove him.
Right. Now, Donald Trump made a comment about the fact that that these two people resigned being in response to political correctness, and that it's going to start a train of this, and that it's a very dangerous precedent to set. Do you agree with that?
Well, let's take a look at what's happened since what's happened at Mizzou. We've now seen, by campusreform.org's estimate, 115 protests at various different colleges across the nation, all dealing with systemic racism and safe spaces and what have you. And so, in that regard, Mr. Trump is not incorrect that we've seen an explosion of this following the success of the students of removing their chancellor and removing their president. You're now seeing calls for presidents at other schools to resign or to step aside. As a matter of fact, there was a protest at Ithaca College in New York just the other day where students were chanting, "President Rashan, no confidence." So you're seeing a lot of students that are with anger sort of directed at their administration, with alleged or real systemic racism. So what we're seeing here is a very big outpouring of this. Whether Mr. Trump was very prescient or was just going with it and he got right, who knows? But he was certainly correct in the long run.
All right, now let's move to Yale for a second. So 2 professors at Yale were criticized after they criticized efforts by Yale administrators to try to censor Halloween costumes. We have a video of this, so let's watch the video.
No, I don't agree with that.
Then why the did you accept the position?
Because
Who hired you?
I have a different
You
vision
should
than you.
step down. If that is what you think about being a ambassador, you should step down.
Now, as you can see, backlash clearly followed the remarks by those Yale professors. Students shouted at them, called for their resignation, saying they weren't providing a safe place at Yale. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, as somebody on Twitter noted, back in 1942, you had a Yale graduate who fought in the Pacific, got shot down, then went on to become a representative, a director of the CIA, the vice president and president. And Yale students in 2015 are triggered by a Halloween email. And that tells you all you really need to know right there. But what you're seeing there is the sort of problem that we've seen at all of these different campuses, this sort of insistence that the university is a safe space. That is, I deserve to have this space where I'm not threatened, where I can learn in peace. The problem is that when you try to create so-called safe spaces, you shut other ideas away from you. You keep yourself separated from other ideas. You don't let anything that could be discomforting come to you. Keep in mind, these professors very mildly criticized an email from the university warning about offensive Halloween costumes. They said, is this, let's be cognizant of, the fact that we have a right to maybe be a little offensive. And that, for that reason, it sent the Yale students into an absolute tizzy. But we're seeing this time and time again every day at the Leadership Institute's campus reform. It's very sad because students do not understand their First Amendment rights and how the right to protest and how to be even the right to be offensive play into it.
Right.